Hey guys, I'm Cody Leeper with Alpha Pursuit, and joining me is Nick Rendo from Mystery Mountain Outdoors.
How's it going, everybody?
Just released within the past couple days, we have the Vortex Razor HD LHT 4.5 to 22, one of the most amazing new hunting optics there is out there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and talk about it a little bit. Nick's going to give his side of the story and what he thinks about it, being what you would almost say a professional hunter. That's your passion, is what you do.
Yeah, primarily I'm a hunter by nature, and so most of my focus is optics and equipment related to hunting. So,
and then on my side, I'm a competitive shooter. I like to hunt and fish and do all that kind of stuff, but my main focus is competition shooting, whether it be long range, precision rifle shooting, action shooting like 3-gun. My whole world is the shooting sports. So we're going to give a kind of a compare and contrast both of our opinions on this optic, the new one, the 4.5 22, but also the 3 to 15 that was already released last year.
Yeah, and I'm pretty excited because last year they released 2 scopes. They had the 42 millimeter and the 50 millimeter, but they were both a 3 to 15. So they're expanding on that line, and I think they're hitting that perfect range that it's going to be a great option for some of you guys that maybe shoot just a little bit longer range and want a little bit more feature set. So it's going to be a good one to add to the lineup.
Absolutely. So real quick, we're just going to run through the new features of the LHT in 4.5 22. Obviously, the first thing that's notable is the zoom range. It's 4.5 22. Second thing, it's first focal plane. So that reticle is going to grow and shrink as you zoom in and out, which keeps your subtensions correct at any distance.
Yeah.
The other thing is, well, they're the same.
Yeah. They're almost the same size and everything.
So,
1.2 ounce different in weight, and
yeah, the comparable 50 millimeter objective in the 3 to 15 is 20.5 ounces. This one's going to come in with that 50 millimeter objective at 21.7. So minimal difference, still has all the same features, and I think the length is off by 0.2 of an inch. So they literally are almost exactly identical.
Crazy.
If you already have one on your rifle, this could immediate upgrade. So we're going to start discussing more in depth, not only just more technical specs, what we like about it, his view from the hunting side, my view from the competition side, but also where this falls in the world, our experiences, and just kind of expand on a lot more things than just the optic.
And I think just having a discussion, we'll just talk about it and dive into the details. So if you wanted just a quick overview, you got that, kind of what's new. But if you keep watching, we'll just dive right in and get kind of silly with it.
And if you look in the description, we'll link to a couple different topics throughout our discussion. I think we're going to talk for a while. I know both of us. We can be chatty Cathy. So we'll give you, down in the description, go ahead and check out different time marks and get to the information you really want to see.
Yeah. Super excited. Let's jump in.
Go. So with this new 4.5 22, if you look at the dimensions and specs technically, it is almost 100% identical to the 3 to 15 by 50. This is
crazy, guys. Check that out. You can barely tell, but there's like, what is it, 0.2 of an inch difference?
0.2 of an inch difference on length and 1.5 ounces in weight.
Yeah, 1.2 ounces. So the new one is 21.7 ounces, which is crazy for a 4.5 to 22, and it's illuminated. So 21.7 is pretty awesome.
For them to take the 3 to 15 by 42 and do 19.2 and then 20.5 and then 21.7, and they're stepping the game up the whole way and only adding ounces.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty awesome. So like Nick said, it's still fully feature packed just like the previous LHTs, but this one's going to be first focal plane. So they have the new XLR2 reticle in here.
Yeah.
It took me a second. But the XLR2 reticle, it's going to look very, very similar to that EBR2C that you see in the EBR7 and other gridded reticles that you see from Vortex. It's going to be extremely similar, just a little bit more streamlined, a little less information on there so you don't have a busy thing happening when you're hunting. But it's going to be first focal plane, have all the familiar features that you are used to. But what I got to say is my favorite part is the simplicity that they kept of this whole line.
Yeah.
You know, they added a first focal plane. A lot of people wanted it, and they wanted a bigger zoom range. Well,
exactly.
Yep. I don't... In PRS competition, shooting out to 1,200 yards, we're only shooting 20-inch plates, typically. You know, sometimes we'll get up to bigger plates, but I think one time ever, because the conditions warranted, I needed to go above 16 power.
Yeah.
But 90% of my shooting's done between 14 and 16 power. And that's for the long distance stuff. So when the LHT came out, I was like, oh, cool. I have a 3 to 15. I can shoot any distance with it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yep.
But what the 4.5 to 22 does is it gives you that first focal plane reticle, and it gives you an actual gridded reticle, so you have windage marks and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But as we saw, we went and looked through these earlier and compared them side by side. When you have a comparable, you have the 4.5 22 on a 15 power, and you have the 3 to 15 on a 15 power. Both are 50 millimeter objectives. Since you're at the top zoom range of that 3 to 15, the light transfer was noticeable. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot.
It's probably, I don't know, 7 p.m. when we film this. It's midsummer, so there's still quite a bit of light. And even in that higher lighting condition, you could actually tell a difference. So one thing we talked about is you get into that low light situation, and I really think you're going to see the light transmission difference. And the field of view is a little bit different on that one too. And so for a guy like me, where he's looking at a painted target or something that's probably white, really stands out, if you're looking in dark timber or something, and you're trying to find that elk or whatever, now you have a little bit better field of view, and it helps you get on target and lock in. So
absolutely,
I like that.
Well, I mean, even for my game with precision rifle stuff, we're not always just shooting one target. It's not it's a dynamic type of shooting sport, to where we're changing positions, we're shooting multiple targets in an array from one position, and so that huge field of view is actually really good for me as well. It doesn't look like you're looking through a toilet paper tube. It's like you're looking at a screen that you can look left and right on.
Yeah,
it's pretty nice. But as we were kind of talking about, like, that little bit of difference in light transmission can mean, you know, you could be right at the last couple ends of shooting light minutes, and that could be the difference between getting something or not and feeling comfortable with the shot or not. But one of the other things is, because of that bigger zoom range, you know, not only do you get a little bit more light transmission in a comparable zoom range, but also your eye box is going to be bigger. So if we're hunting, you know, or I'm shooting PRS match, I wouldn't use this necessarily for a PRS match, but you could. You're going to be in a wonky position for some long-range shots or any shots potentially. Yeah. And if you have a bigger eye box, it gives you more of a leeway on where you can get your position at because of being able to find the reticle, having a full view.
Yeah, and one of the things I like to do when I just pick up a scope, if it's not mounted to a rifle, if I'm in a store or buddy hands it to me, one of the first things I do is I'll acquire kind of the sight picture, but I'll also kind of move my eye around. I want to see how much play do I have before I kind of lose that full field of view. And I think the eye relief on both of these is really great. I didn't really notice a difference between the two as far as eye relief. But what I like is that when you do zoom in, no matter if you have the 3 to 15 or the larger one all the way up to 22, it's not that if you barely move your eye, it's all black. And so in some situations, or if you're trying to get rested in, if you're resting off your pack, there's a little bit of margin of error, and you kind of need that in a hunting scenario.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I have 4 minutes to shoot 10, 12, or 8 shots. Yeah. And so I can make my position correct where I can find my stuff. But in a hunting scenario, you don't have necessarily, A, have that time, B, have the availability, or C, things are happening too quickly. Yeah. So again, back to the time. But I gotta say, on 15 power, I've had that mounted up to a rifle. I had this mounted up to a rifle prior to now. At 15 power, when you pull it up to your shoulder, this one is a touch more forgiving. Obviously, as you zoom up to that 22 power, it becomes like that, and it's max power, and it's a little less forgiving. But at a comparable, it is a little bit more softer on you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you were talking about some of the light transmission things. As a hunter, and I talked about dark timber because that's a good example of a challenging thing to look at through a scope, is when you have that first focal plane, it is a fairly fine reticle, and so at 4.5 power, you know, your first thought is, well, I don't want to mess with stuff. Some hunters want it very simple. So in the 3 to 15, it's a little bit more of a simple reticle, but it leaves a little bit lackluster in the sense that your windage isn't very defined. Where I actually noticed when we were out there playing around and trying them both side by side is that even at 4.5 power, it is fine, but because there's enough hashes, that crosshair is really easy to see. But with the first focal plane, my favorite part is when I zoom in, and I'm kind of like you, I'm in that 12 to probably 17 range is where I want to be on most of my shots where I'm really laid down. When you zoom that in, I'd say about 15 power, you get the most crisp and perfect size reticle picture for an animal. And so I do like that quite a bit, whereas on the second focal plane option, that it is what it is. And so this one, zoom in a little bit, you can kind of get set on your target. And if you're going to shoot a long range shot, hopefully you're like me and like Cody, you're going to take your time, you're going to be set. But it is nice if you have weird wind variances and you're shooting across a mountain, if you do miss, God forbid, this is going to give you a little bit more information to get you on that second shot. So I do like having that option.
Absolutely. And follow-up shots are key. We obviously want to, in a game hunting scenario at longer distance, anything over that 350, 400 yard mark, anything over that, we want to be absolutely certain about our shot. And so we're going to take that extra time. And so I'll kind of talk about the turrets a little bit here in a second. But like you said, the reticle is going to give you feedback. When you break that shot, if it does miss or something happens, you will be able to see on that grid exactly where it impacted, make an immediate adjustment, and send another shot. And even if you did make a good shot, you know what? I didn't like how far back that was. That was more of a back, like say it's broadside towards you and me. It's more back on that left side. It's hitting more towards the liver. You know what? I saw that. It's a very clear scope. I saw that it hit back there. I'm going to jack another one in, hold over a little bit more, and send another one. You know, I want insurance. I owe it to that animal to put it down as quickly and humanely as possible. So not necessarily if you have a miss and you're trying to do a makeup shot, truly, it could be a good shot, but I might want to put another one into it just for insurance. You know, it's what I owe that animal, it's what I owe myself, and to make it an easier pack out, and so we don't waste any meat because it didn't go down right away and couldn't find him. So multiple things about that.
While we're talking about the reticle, I think it's important to also note that in the other options that they came out with last year, you had the 42 millimeter, and it was offered in MOA or MILS. But then when you get into the 50 millimeter, it was only offered in MILS. For me, and I'm sure a lot of hunters are very similar to this, we operate in an MOA world. A lot of stuff is kind of tailored to the MOA world for hunting. So I wanted that 50 millimeter. I wanted a little bit of extra light gathering, but they only had that one option. I think they were really smart in this. They offered it in both, so you can do MIL or MOA.
Absolutely,
and I like that.
And that's the thing. Like the 50 also had a different reticle completely than the 42 option last year, and so that was a little funky to me. I'm like, first of all, they didn't offer it in both MOA and MILS. Also, it's a completely different reticle. I was like, I kind of wanted the 42 reticle in the 50. And then, you know, they should have had both options, both places.
And I think they made the best move by offering it in whichever flavor you like.
Exactly. And so you're going to get a full focal plane. The MOA and the MRAD are going to be the exact same. They're going to be identical. You're going to get that 50 millimeter objective. And obviously you get your preference of MOA or MILS.
Yeah, and on the reticle piece, and we were talking about the illumination, just another note about that is on the version that I have in my hand, which is the 50 millimeter or 42, it doesn't matter, but the 3 to 15 is the important part. The illumination is just the dot. So that center dot is what gets illuminated, and that's fine. And I think they, you know, some people call it like a fire dot. That's all they can focus on. Where this, it highlights a majority of that reticle, and I think I like that a little bit more. It gives you a little bit more to look at when you're. If you need the illumination, you kind of want that anyway.
Absolutely, and it doesn't over illuminate the reticle either, because there's that whole grid in there. Some optics out there, when you hit the illumination button, it's going to illuminate that entire grid. Everything that's a reticle in there is going to illuminate. This illuminates the middle, like your windage, your main windage, your main vertical. That is it. If you do have spillover to the others, obviously your brightness is too high, turn it down just a touch.
And what I like about it, and I'll just kind of zoom in here, is you can see it's just a soft touch button. and it's kind of hidden in there. So some people are worried about their batteries dying or, you know, having to mess with that in the field. It's not easy to hit that button just in your pack or anything else, and then you can feel it when it is on. And then it also has, you were saying, Cody, has an auto off.
Yeah,
so
it has an auto off after 4 or 6 hours, something like that. Obviously, you don't want to rely on that. It's going to drain your battery.
Yep.
This isn't like other Vortex products that have an ungodly battery life like the Spark Solar.
Yep.
But, so you're going to want to cognitively like, oh, okay, I'm not in a situation, I'm not looking into dark timber and it's not blending in, or,
Yep.
I'm done with the day, I need to just turn that off.
Yeah.
So, and then the feature to make it go up and down, since it's a single button, every time you tap it, it's either going to go up or down. When it reaches the bottom or reaches the top, it's going to flash at you a couple times, and then it'll start traveling in that direction. So say you get all the way to the top, it's going to get super bright, and it'll flash at you, and it'll be like, okay, cool, that's my max setting. And then if you continue to press that button there, it'll start dropping all the way back down until it hits the bottom, and then it'll flash. You won't be able to see it probably because it's super, super dim.
Yeah.
And it'll flash down there, and then keep pressing, it'll go right back up.
Yep.
So it's super, super simple to use, and auto off will kind of help you, but really these still will drain the battery pretty fast.
So right now on one of my main hunting rifles is I have one of the HSTs, and it's the 6-24. There's a few things about it that I wanted out of an Optic that wasn't offered before. So talking, separate from this line to some of the other stuff, is I wanted to get into that razor glass, but there was a little bit of a gap in the hunting world between like a tactical scope that had a ton of features and it was awesome. It was a bomb. It was a tank. But I wanted something that had a little bit different feature set. So when they came out with the LHT, I was super excited. And what I'm talking about is the locking turret. So you can take it and push it down. It has the zero stop. It allows you to go below your zero just a little bit. Has the side focus parallax, has the right zoom range. The illumination, personally, I could do with or without it, but the fact is that it's so light with the illumination in it, I'll take it.
Yeah.
It's one of those features that I'm like, I don't need it, but when you're talking an optic that is this light, that's what I like. And I like the fact that they're streamlined. There's not a lot sticking out. It is a capped windage turret, which is pretty awesome because I'm going to carry this on a sling. I'm going to throw it in my pack. I don't want to have to worry about anything changing. And with that locking turret, it is perfect. And so they put a package together. It almost feels like it's tailored for me. Because when on my HST, I didn't want a 6-24. I wanted something a little more than a 15, but I wanted my minimum to be like 3-4.
Yeah.
Because you never know if you're in a spot, you want that little bit of a minimum. And then, locking turrets is an important thing. Obviously, having turrets in general with a zero stop is kind of a benchmark in my opinion. And now we're in that razor glass, that next tier. And I think it's kind of that perfect scenario, perfect storm of everything.
Absolutely, because you look at the Razor line, a gorgeous optic that can do literally any job, but it's 4 pounds. It's crazy heavy. It has a 4.5 to 27 zoom range. It's like, I know optically the engineers know how to do this.
Yeah.
When are they going to come? And they kind of hit it right here.
Yeah, I think
so. The fact, like you said, it's a perfect hybrid optic. It's got the locking turrets with the zero stop, and it's the REVSTOP zero system, which if you haven't used, super simple. You leave it out when you're zeroing. You turn your dials wherever you need to turn them. The windage cap is actually going to be very similar. You take that screw out, and once it's out, you just pull the cap off, turn it to zero, put it back on, put the screw back in.
Yeah.
Super simple. And then the top one's actually very similar, even setting the zero stop. You're going to pull that center screw out that you can see right there, a little bit of a center screw. You pull that out, pull the turret off.
Yep.
That REVSTOP zero ring pops into the turret, and you spin it to the right, and there's a little peg in there that'll bump up against something. When it bumps up against that little slot, you put your turret back on at zero, tighten it back down, and then you will still actually have some travel under zero.
Yeah.
You will have exactly, I believe it's 1.25 MOA of under travel and half a mil of under travel, depending on which variation of scope you have. So I can still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dial under. Say I have a 300-yard zero, I can still dial back and shoot 100 yards for something super precise if I wanted to. But now you still have your entire rev range, but a quick and easy, super simplistic zero stop. I actually took the 3 to 15, that one, out to 1170 and 920 yards. And it was a little bit of windy day, that not super, I'd say, versatile reticle on there. Didn't have any measurable windage marks. Mm-hmm. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and dial my wind on that side turret.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously you got to do some tracking tests and whatnot. Let's see how it holds up. We had a first round impact 920, and then a second round impact 1170. Wind was a little stronger than I expected, but the actual wind call was good. The tracking was good. I dialed it up, dialed it back, recapped my turret, and it was good to go. Zero was still on. So it tracked extremely well. I run the 3 to 15 up and down to 1,000 multiple times, and it tracks great. Like I said, the one drawback was that windage turret, but I still, if we're taking a shot that far on game, first things first, you better be very, very confident in your gear, and you've probably had thousands of rounds through that setup a couple times already, or a similar setup, and know what you're doing. Second off, we're not rushing that saw. I'm not laying down in 60 seconds firing off my first shot at that kind of distance on a game. I'm going to look at all the conditions, look at all my gear, make sure my stuff's correct, make sure the windage variables I put in, make sure they're still reading the same. We're going to be taking our time for that. So with the option to pull that turret off and just dial it, it's an extra 10-15 seconds on like a 10-minute process that I'm going to be doing. Okay, maybe not 10 minutes, but the point is it's going to be a longer process. The 4.5 to 22, however, is going to allow you to have those windage marks, and so it's going to make it a little more streamlined. Yes. But you still can trust those capped windage turrets. But now I'm not going to have to, because I have a 4.5 to 22.
And honestly, one thing I really like about a first focal plane option is when you're in the heat of the moment, you've got an elk or a deer, a game animal, and you're honing in on that animal. You're worried about the noise you're making, the wind. Some of the things you don't want to have to think about is where you're at in that zoom range for your subtensions.
Yep.
With first focal plane, you're wherever you're at, you just grab it, crank it, and you know that subtension is going to be correct. So if you're familiar with your load data and you crank that thing and you get set up, you're ready to rock and roll. It doesn't matter where you are. You know, one of the things I used to have to remember is exactly where I was if I wanted to use subtensions, and I like that I don't have to worry about that anymore. Yeah. One of the things on the turret, and I'll just show you just real quick, and I'll pop it up, give it a second to focus here. There we go. Is you can listen to this. Very audible clicks and very positive in each rotation, and then you can lock it down. I think that's important too, is having a very good feel to that, and the fact that they actually went with a larger knob allows you to get more elevation change in one rotation. So you're not sitting there cranking for 5 minutes, you know, on dialing a shot.
So the profile on this I loved, because top turret's a little bigger, like you said. However, it's not obnoxiously tall.
Yeah.
It's still nice and short. Capped windage turret isn't sticking out there a mile. When I never touch my windage turret, all it's going to do is get bumped and throw me off and make me make a bad shot on game. No need for a windage turret, so that's good. What I did is I took this and I threw it into an old-fashioned leather scabbard on a rifle on a horse, and this thing fit just fine.
Yeah,
it fit just like
rounded.
Yeah, it's everything's a little rounded, nothing to catch on, and it doesn't really go out to the sides from that 50 millimeter bell anyway, and your rifle's probably going to be a little wider than that 50 millimeter objective anyway. The illumination side does stick out a little bit more, but not by much, than the windage side. So that was a huge thing. I know a lot of outfitters, especially out here in the Pacific Northwest, take guys in on horses. You know, it's kind of a pain sometimes to sling your gun and have that there, and now you're going through thick brush and your barrel's catching on stuff and it's just getting beat around. And I watched a guy on the ridge of the saddle on the back. He had his sling loose enough that I was watching his scope just bump the saddle every single time that horse took a step. And so you can throw it in the scabbard and not have to worry about it. It just saves a lot of things.
One thing that I will say, kind of looking at them and comparing them and stuff, is, you know, Vortex has their Defender cap. It's the plastic cap you can slip on. You can get it for any of their optics, and it pops open. It's great. And then they have these rubber caps, and I'll show you here. This is what it comes with here. It's just the rubber simple ones. And this is good if I'm going to throw it in a gun case or something in my truck. But what I kind of wish they had is this slip-over neoprene covers. and maybe offer that for this line, because I hunt with that. I always have that on, so no dust, no dirt, no sticks, branches get in my optic, and then I slip it off once I pull my rifle off. I'll oftentimes just carry it in my pack. So I think they'll probably come out with something, and I think that would be a really smart thing, or even offer a specific cap for this. So this is brand new. This line came out last year. I'm hoping that they do that. They listen to the hunter in me, and because I want a little bit of a neoprene cover that I can slip on. It's kind of tailor-made for this. I know they make it for like the Huey AR optic. They make a specific sure fit version, and so maybe a few of us will say, "Hey man, we want that." I think that would be neat to have too.
Go ahead, go to the customer service page on Vortex and let them know your thoughts on that one. Maybe we can band together and get that to happen. So that's what's actually funny is I don't put any caps or covers or anything on my optics when I'm hunting.
Really?
Yep. Nope. Huh. Even through brush, riding horses, you name it, I'm not putting caps on my stuff. The big one is usually the objective end. Like that's where things can get weird.
Yeah.
And it's pretty easy to just clean off a eyepiece. But what I do is I run a sunshade. Always.
That's a good point.
I always run a sunshade. And so it does protect a little bit, and you're usually carrying it down like this, so if you scrape by something, it's another couple inches out there. It's I'm usually muzzle down when I'm hiking, and it's just going to brush past, and it's not going to scratch anything, and then my eyepiece is up here by my chest, and so I don't have to worry about it. Then a lot of people are like, oh, you're not going to have a light gathering if you have a sunshade on.
I don't think that's the case.
I've not really experienced that as being the case. Also, cool, sun's going down. Just going to screw that off, throw it in my pack real quick. It's a very simple, quick thing. Also, I just keep it on because I don't know when that sun is coming down. And if that sun's coming down, I'm watching a buck, I'm in the moment, and that sun's coming down, now I have a glare because I didn't have that sunshade on.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt me during the middle of the day. It's not going to hurt me towards the end of the day. But it can only benefit me. Yeah,
and I like that almost all of the upper end stuff from Vortex, they offer that. So, of course, they offer that. The sunshade just comes with it. I might have to try that. I don't typically run a sunshade, but I could see the benefits of keeping stuff off of it. And then, obviously, the glare. Especially if you're hunting first light or last light and you're looking at towards the top of a mountain and you're looking past that, that's where I bet you could probably pick up a noticeable difference there.
Yep, absolutely. And you'll still get a little bit of that glare. They're not perfect.
Yeah.
But it cuts it down a lot, and that can mean the difference in a hunting scenario.
And if you're a guy like me that comes, you're in the hunting world, that's what your focus is. You would have known that gap, right? The Viper has all the features you want, but everybody wants that next step. They want to spend a little bit more money and get the Razor glass. But when you jumped into the Razor, it was kind of tailored for a guy like you who's doing competition shooting or super long range. Whereas now you have that glass, that Razor glass. And if you don't know the difference, if you ever get a chance, and maybe at a store like Cabela's it's hard to tell, but get them out side by side and you will see the difference in the glass is substantial to go to the Razor glass, especially in those low light situations. This to me, if guys come to me and talk to me and they say, well, this is what I'm looking for. I want a really good optic. I want some turrets. I want these features. I would tell them, if you can save a little bit and the budget allows, step up to the Razor line because it's a lifetime optic. And if you're watching this, you probably already know Vortex has the most ridiculous warranty ever. So you're always protected. This is going to be something you probably never not have.
Yeah.
Once you purchase it, you're gonna have it. So.
And honestly, in an ideal scenario, you would take I shoot Seekins rifles. They're Seekins Havoc bolt rifles. They're super light. Amazing for hunting and ungodly accurate. They can outshoot most people out there.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I'd grab one in the same caliber, and I'd grab another one in the same caliber.
Yeah.
I'd have two of them. I'd have one with this 4.5 22 on it, and then one with that 3 to 15. I might go custom shop route and get a 22-inch barrel.
Yeah.
I'm bougie, so I might go 22-inch barrel, 21 something, shorten it up a little bit. So. You can still, with these newer calibers, get 6.5 PRC, 7 Psalms gaining big steam, and I know that's one of my favorite cartridges.
Yeah.
You can still get amazing 1,000-yard performance. I have way plenty more than elk killing energy at 1,000 yards, but I can get that from a 21, 22 inch barrel. So you get two things set up identically.
Mm-hmm.
You have one, like, I'm going to be hunting timber today. Cool. I'm going to grab the rifle with the 3 to 15 on it.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to be hunting open country today. I'm going to grab the 4.5 22.
Yeah, and honestly, when you pulled that out today and you're like, you got to take a look at this thing and see what you think, I was thinking, all right, I'm excited to have a 4.5 to 22 by 50. That hits that perfect zoom range that I'm looking for, but it's probably going to be 6, 7, 8 ounces more, and so you have to make that decision. Do you want the extra bit of zoom range for your hunting scenario, or do you want to shave that weight? We're talking 1.2 ounce different. It's a no-brainer in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, and when it comes down to it, like I said, you could have two rifle setup. A super ideal scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Two of the same rifle, one setup with each scope. You can do any scenario with either one. So just because you grabbed one and took it out in first scenario, and then you ended up in the timber, this can still handle timber hunting. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to be as ideal as that, because the bigger reticle, you're gonna search for the reticle a little more. But there's on the edges of the reticle, on top and bottom, there's a thicker portion that kind of draws your eyes in, and then it helps you focus on the small, finer stuff, and then sees that. Also, illumination, going to help you find it. So this can still go hunt close timber. Mm-hmm. I actually I killed a buck a couple of years ago with the AMG, the Vortex Razor AMG, at about 75 yards. I had it all the way down at 6 power, first focal plane reticle. I pulled up and I immediately saw the reticle and took them in one shot. And it was super quick. So I know from personal experience, the first focal plane is not detrimental in a close timbered environment, But when you get out to, in the Pacific Northwest here, we could walk 50 yards and boom, opens up to a mile-long open ridge.
The Western hunter hunting antelope or something, you're going to want to be able to get in there. And I like the option of having that. It's not as... it's not like this one. If you're traditional guy, you come from scopes in the past and you just have that duplex, this has a lot more information in it, not as much as the new one, because it tapers down. The posts on each side taper down, and that's what you're using for your windage adjustments and kind of gauging that. And then it does have some hash marks. That is nice, but having a little bit more information, I think, would be better than not having it. And the first focal plane, I think I prefer that. But some guys, they don't want all that information. And my dad, for instance, I know my dad, if he were to pick the two up, he'd probably say, I think I want this one because it's a little more simple. It's got that one dot in the middle, and all I have to focus on is putting that dot where I want to hit. Mm-hmm. And so it gives you that option too, which is kind of nice. You can choose which fits your style better.
It fits your style, fits your majority of needs. But like, I can still use this in timber. I can still use that to shoot 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
I'm typically not going to be taking shots on game that far.
Yeah.
That is way too far, typically, unless you put thousands of rounds down range. I just want to put that caveat in there. Yeah. You owe it to the animal to put your time in. But it can still handle either one. It's just one's more ideal than the other in certain scenarios.
Yeah, you had it pulled up a second ago. This is brand new for everybody and for us too. What was the price point difference? I don't think there was much of a price point difference.
Let me look real quick. I believe I have it right here. Yeah.
There you go.
So right now we're looking at the Razor HD LHT, the 3 to 15 models that are already out. The 542 has an MSRP of $999.99. The 3 to 15 by 50 has an MSRP of $1049.99. And then the 4.5 to 22 with the first focal plane reticle, illumination, everything with the 50 millimeter objective is going to have a $1499.99 MSRP. So we're probably looking at just north of $1,000 street price.
Yeah, probably. Most of the stores are all, the MSRP is a nice point to kind of view, but your Cabela's, Optics Planet, those kind of guys are usually going to offer it. So you're probably just north of $1,000, and the price difference at an MSRP rate $450 ish, and that's not that bad, honestly.
Yeah.
And I like that they have. I think they're going to continue to expand this line because I think this hits that perfect niche. So I bet you they're going to offer a few more in the months coming, or maybe even the years coming. But
I wonder maybe like a 1 to 6 hog hunter version.
Yeah, or even like a 2 to 10, but a smaller, lighter weight version for some of those guys. I know sheep guys want as little weight as possible, and they're not shooting 14 miles. When they get in on a sheep, they're 300 to 400 yards.
Right.
So that might be an option coming up.
Also, I personally don't care for illumination.
Yep.
So I've never really used it. And then we look at lines like what was released earlier this year, the Venom versus the Strike Eagle.
Yeah.
Almost picture perfect, the same, like almost identical like these. The turrets look differently, and the one doesn't have locking turrets. The Venom doesn't have locking turrets or an illumination, and the Strike Eagle does.
Yeah.
But it's a couple $100 cheaper, and that might make a difference. And the purpose of that optic is more of the NRL 22, the PRS entry level, like those kinds of matches where we're in broad daylight. We're not worried about illumination, so why am I going to buy illumination?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's get rid of that. Let's make it cheaper.
And I will say, if I were to just walk into the store and I was going to buy one today, if I had the option of non-illumination, I would probably choose that. But the fact that it only adds a little bit of weight, and I can't imagine the price difference between it. Most of your cost is in the turrets, the mechanisms, and the glass. So I don't know, the illumination adds a ton of cost. I do think, though, with the first focal plane, I would use that illumination probably more than I would in the second focal plane, because this just lights that dot. And it's fairly bold, so I think I could see this almost all the time, no matter what my lighting scenario is. But if I'm in a really low light situation, I may just click that on, and now I've got a perfect view of what I want to do.
So this one, like the EVR7, has a little center dot to it. Like I said, it's super, super similar. I'm surprised they didn't just put one of those in it. It's very similar, just slightly more simple with a little bit less information. Yeah. But that little dot in there, I want to say is 0.2 mils. I know everything in mils. My life is all mils. Everything I do
all
is mils.
I
understand
you guys
MOA.
In your competition shooting in your mils.
I'm not smart, so we're hearing 4 numbers on a call and hearing 2 numbers on a call. Yeah, 2 numbers make sense to me. 4 numbers doesn't make sense. That's foreign territory. So when we look at the dot on this, it's like 0.2 mils. And so we looked at a 1 foot by 1 foot item that was 650 yards away, 657. Used our theories, ranged that, 657 yards. Looked at it and was like, okay, cool. I actually use a 12-inch circle or square as a metric for gauging your effectiveness on game. Yes. We can go to that in a second. But, and so I was like, cool, let me see and it didn't cover up the entire 12 by 12 square.
Yeah, not even close.
Not even close. You're like, okay, cool. Now I'm perfectly centered with this. We did it on 15 power as well.
Yeah, match the max of this one and then put it on the same. Absolutely.
So put this one to 15 power, looked at that target, and then we pulled up the 3 to 15, put it at 15 power, and looked at that same target. And that's a bigger, because it's the second focal plane, it stays the same size, and it's also a bit thicker of a reticle.
Yeah.
But it's not too thick, honestly, because it still did not fully cover up that 12 by 12 square. I could still actually put it inside and say, okay, I'm a little bit too far to this edge, I need to come over. And I could minutely pick out exactly where I wanted to put it inside of that 1 foot by 1 foot square.
And what I do like about the simplicity of this reticle, too, is it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. Anytime you change your reticle and it's a little different, there's going to be a learning curve. And the learning curve isn't very steep on this, but what's important to me is that I have everything mastered. So in the heat of the moment, it's more secondary. It's kind of second nature. Everything just happens. Where when you get into some of these reticles, there's a lot of information. It may take you a second to kind of process it. I do like the simplicity on this for some guys because it's just enough information that you can see what you need to, but it's not so much that you have to think about it. When you pull up, you know exactly where you need to be. The hash marks, there's not so many of them that you have to count or think. Yeah, I do like that. So if you're a guy that likes the simplicity, I would stick probably with this reticle. But if you're the guy that's really dialing your stuff, you are shooting a little bit further, and I would say probably 700 to 800 yards. Yeah, exactly. 700 to 800 yards. This one is is going to be perfect if that's kind of where you want to be. If you and I'm not saying you couldn't shoot further, but if you really want to step out there, especially on a game animal where every shot matters 100%. Yeah, if you want to go a little bit further, this has that little bit better feature set for that.
All right. So the teaching side of me, the alpha pursuit side, teaching side of me wants to kind of put a couple notes out there. So when it comes to this, what I hate about the second focal plane is people are going to buy this with the idea of, oh, I'm going to shoot longer distances.
Yep.
However, now if they try to shoot off the reticle, they're going to be like, oh, I should be at this power. If the power moves a little bit, now their zero's off, their subtensions aren't correct. And so that does, I'm like, I'm a little hesitant just because it's like, we have first focal plane out there for a reason. And they did it, Vortex did it correctly with, and it's not, you can't replicate it in these optics, but like the 1 to 10, the Gen 3 1 to 10, all the way at 1, it's a red dot. Turn all the way up, now you're able to use some subtensions.
That's a good point. Yeah,
I can even use those subtensions at like 3 power. It's pretty rad. It's a little impractical for something like this. You can't quite do something like that, but it's like maybe we can figure something out, like at least like a horseshoe to where we can draw someone's eye in at low power or something. But when we zoom in, we still have that nice first focal plane reticle to shoot off of. And
one of the things that I know you're reluctant, the teacher in you doesn't want to talk about a precision shooter, but it is important because it is offered. So you've got the Kenton Industries, let's see if I can get it to focus here. There we go. So you can get a custom turret, if you will, or a sleeve that goes on your turret from Kenton Industries. And if you're familiar with that, you probably already know what I'm talking about. If you're not, basically, you take your load data, you send it into these guys, and they will laser engrave a little turret that you can put on your rifle. Now, I know you're going to disagree with me. There are some guys that I know that hunt the same exact area every year. They buy the same ammo, and all they want to do is not have to think. They want to say 300 yards in the rangefinder, dial to 300. So I don't use that personally. I think it's awesome that they include it, and it's free with your scope. I'm the kind of guy that I may switch what I'm shooting. It may even be, in the time we're in right now, I may not be able to get the exact components that I had before, so maybe I'm loading a slightly different thing, and I want to be able to adjust accordingly. Elevation change, temperature change, barometric pressure, anything changes, and this turret doesn't do much for you anymore, but it'll get you in the ballpark. But I know you're just itching to talk about it a little bit.
I'm just saying it'll get you in the ballpark, but we're talking about game here.
Yeah.
So there's no flexibility with custom turrets. Like you get it set, I would have to have 6 different custom turrets for one rifle and one scope because I hunt such a varied amount of terrain. You know, in the same day, straight up the same day, I could go from hunting 8,000 feet to hunting 2,300 feet in the same day within 2 or 3 hours of each other.
Yeah.
You know,
and that makes a huge impact on your target too.
Huge. Texas, you can go across the entire state and change 500 feet. Like, it's different. But like where we're at, there's a couple of different things. So I can change elevation drastically. I can change temperature drastically with that elevation.
Yeah.
Also, as you're saying, temperature affects bullets and everything. Lot to lot. Even factory ammo varies a lot. I had a student I was teaching. He came in. He had a custom turret. It's a perfect example. I love this. Yeah. He had a custom turret. And I was like, you know what? Let's gather some muzzle velocity on you, all that kind of stuff. Let's see what we got. It was the same exact ammo, same bullet. It was Weatherby ammo. Was 257. Everything was the same. Just the box changed.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. Should be pretty accurate. The average speed of that and the average speed of what he used to shoot was 270 feet per second.
That's
different.
A big variance.
270 feet per second faster.
Yeah.
So you're going to be shooting a lot faster, especially 270 feet per second. We're talking about like 3,600 feet per second versus 34 something or 33 something. It was absurd. I was like, we can't do anything with this. It's like, if you want, we can count the clicks because it was an MOA scope. So I was like, okay, every click's 0.25. That's easy. I was like, I can calculate this out and do it by clicks, and I can custom etch your turret right now for this new lot of ammo you got. It's like you got 6 boxes. But I was like, in that time, you need to contact the scope manufacturer and have this sent back.
And I know a lot of you guys that are watching this, if you're a hunter, the new Hornady Precision Hunter or whatever it is, a lot of you guys are going to be shooting that. But if you're like me, I still hand load. And one of my main rifles is a 300 Win Mag. I love that rifle. It is awesome. It just light switches everything. But what I noticed is when I bought it, I was doing load development. I was doing some practice shooting, and I was checking my load development. So I shot quite a bit, and then I also took it hunting. And then when I went back to the range, I did all my load data. I was set. I went back to the range the following year, the exact same load, and I am measuring everything to the gnats. And my rifle sped up just because it's the barrel breaking in a sense. That barrel smooths out just a little bit, and you will actually gain some speed. So if you buy a brand new rifle, you go out, you shoot it a few times, you throw this on, you get your data, and you send it off. When you get that broke in and you've shot that rifle a couple hundred rounds, maybe not even that barrel will speed up a little bit, and now you're in a whole different ball.
Absolutely. And then also, you load your own. We can get into a real deep rabbit hole about drying out powder. If you leave the cap off your powder jug too long, it's going to start getting some of that moisture out of the powder. Now all of a sudden, your powder's burning a little bit hotter. It's burning a little bit faster, and that just happens as you take off. You know, lots of powder can speed up, but the barrels definitely do break in and speed up. The problem is 6.5 Creedmoor. Let's just use this as a good example. 6.5 Creedmoor is a great all-around cartridge. Love it or hate it, I know it's the biggest debate on the internet right now. I'm going to tell you this right now. It works. It works.
It's consistent.
I've killed 4 deer with a 6.5 Creedmoor, and each one was a one hit drop.
Yep.
And one of those is at 700 yards. It smacked it like a freaking freight train. It just dropped. It works. Okay. Cool. End of that. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But barrel life on those, I currently have a rifle that's still holding a 0.7 inch 10-shot group with 3,200 rounds on the barrel.
That's insane.
That is insane, right? Over 2 years, 3,200 rounds, 0.7, 10-shot group.
Yeah.
Standard deviation is still there. All of it has been factory ammo. All Hornady factory ammo. Standard deviation is still there at like 8 to 9. It used to be some lots of ammo were down at 5 to 7.
Which is pretty dang good.
Currently,
for
it's
factory ammo.
8 to 9-ish, 10-ish, depending on the day. But I do 5 or 10 shot strings when I'm measuring SD and doing my groups. I just believe that really shows the characteristics of a rifle. But everything's still good in it. So let's take a 6.5 Creedmoor. Lots of people have them. Super versatile cartridge, can do a lot of things. You now have a barrel life of 3,200 rounds, or 35, or there's probably someone out there with 4.
If you're a hunter, it's a lot. If you're a competition shooter, it's still a lot. But a hunter, that's basically a lifetime, if not more.
It's a
Several
lifetime.
kids' lifetimes, yeah.
So what you now have is you got this custom turret for this ammo. Sweet. First problem, that ammo line might not be around anymore in a couple years. Who knows? Things happen. Second off, that ammo line is going to have a lot of lot numbers in between the time you first buy your ammo and the next time you buy your ammo. And it could be within a day, within 2 days. Guess what? A new lot of ammo is already on the shelf.
Yeah.
And unless you sit down and buy 5 cases or like a barrel's worth of ammo for that gun, you have lot differences. So your speed can speed up, it can change, and all that kind of stuff. And so we now are talking about, cool, my rifle has 6 different average velocities over the course of me buying 6 different lots of 100 rounds. You know?
Then that's taking all the other things that we talked about, elevation changes,
This
environment
is before you
changes.
ever get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and another thing, a lot of guys now are putting suppressors on their guns, and they may run suppressed for a hunt, or they may not run suppressed for a hunt, or whatever the case is. But if you're running suppressed or non-suppressed, now that does impact everything as well. It impacts where you hit and everything else. Yep. I'm a big proponent of having a program that I can input my data in the field. I actually have a pair of Leica binoculars that have all that built in. So when I push the range button, it's going to give me all that information. I'm a little bit of a spoiled brat in that sense. But a lot of guys, what they're going to use is an app. And there's a ton of different apps out there. But you take your range, and then you try and get the current weather data. You input it, and then it's just going to tell you your corrected adjustment. And if you just leave it as your normal turret, you just adjust how it tells you to do it. So
any environment, where you move, what you do. I use this Garmin Tactics Delta. It's got applied ballistics in it. It's awesome. I've used it for the past year or so. I've shot PRS matches off of it. I've done hunting off of it. It just works.
Yeah.
But I have the flexibility of I can get any readout from this and dial it on my turrets. Simple as that. One of the biggest things is, like, a lot of people are like probably gonna see this and kind of argue and be like, well, I'm not that precise of a person. Well, you kind of need to be, especially when we're talking about shooting games. So that's why when I teach, I have a standard. It is a 12-inch circle or a 12-inch plate, and you have to be 100% on that plate. And that is your I'm good distance.
And that's kind of that kill zone, and some people say minute a deer. If you're in that 12-inch area, then you're going to hit long, heart, or a combination of the two.
Brisket to backbone, your average mule deer is about 18 inches. Whitetail, you'll probably be about 16. And a coos deer, probably like 6 inches. But, and an elk, you're going to be more, obviously bigger, but if you're at that 12-inch standard, you're good for an elk. Yeah. So, what I do is people will come in and be like, I'm set up, ready to go. I just want to learn the little details. I was like, cool, we want to confirm your zero, your dope, your muzzle velocity, all that kind of stuff. And they say, nope, I'm good. And we'll be like, okay, well, shoot that 12-inch plate at 600 yards. You're good to 600 yards, right? Yep. I have yet to have a person lay down and hit that first round.
Really?
I have yet. I have taught 50 or 60 so people. I'm just ramping up on the teaching stuff. 50 or 60 so people. 0 people. These are all your average Joe type guys. These aren't like guys who go out and shoot a lot.
Yeah.
These are average Joe type guys who think they truly believe they're set up and ready to roll.
Yeah. And that cold bore first shot is the only, sometimes in a hunting scenario, that's the only one you get.
Yep.
So you got to know that you're there.
And if you're pushing the boundaries too far, now you're throwing a gut shot and you're like, crap, I don't know. And that deer runs off and now it's going to die somewhere. And that's just a really crappy scenario you don't want to put yourself in. So I know, for me, my 100% range, 720 yards. You would know how I know it's 720 yards? Because there's a berm at my range that's 720 yards.
And you know you can hit it.
Yep, there's a T-post already there. I put my MGM MLS target on it and I go back and every time.
And I think an important piece to that equation is not just practice and teaching and everything else, but having a repeatable optic. If everybody says it, and I truly believe this, you get what you pay for in an optic.
Yep.
Some things you could go buy cereal and it probably doesn't matter. But in an optic, you are paying for something. You're going to get better glass. You're going to get better features. You're going to get more kind of tighter tolerances, if you will. And one thing I've noticed, even I have the Viper line on one of my rifles, like I said, and I've used it a ton. I've fallen down mountains, and it always holds 0. And when I dial all the way out to 800 or 1,000, most of the time that's just on the range, but I can dial out to 1,000 and return it to 0, and it's going to hit 0 every time. And I think that's pretty important. And I was thinking about this while you're talking about it. I'm curious to know what like your top 3 favorite features of this are. If you were to just grab this, be like, whoa, these are the 3 things that really strike me right off the bat.
As a hunter or as a competition shooter?
We'll do competition shooter and then I'll do the hunter piece. I'm just curious to see if they differ.
So, my biggest thing, first off, the best part I like about it, as a competition guy, ease of use. Ease of use, simplicity. I don't want to think about things, and it's got everything I already need. And so it's got everything I need. Parallax on the side, locking adjustable turrets. Like it's just simple, everything I need. Second off, it's kind of on the hunter side, man.
Yeah.
the no turret side, capped windage turret. That's
a locking
huge
turret. Yeah.
As soon as I'm like, this is a hybrid optic, that's what the first thing I would look at. Is like, cool, gone, got it, thanks.
That's actually a really good point. You call it a hybrid optic, and I see that when you say hybrid, I'm thinking the hunter versus competition shooter, the guy that can meld both. It's kind of set up to where you could use it either way. Yeah.
Yep. So. And then I'd probably say my second one is a 30mm tube.
Yes.
As a competition shooter, because that allows me a lot more travel. I can shoot those 1,200 yard shots and stuff. But this, we're going to talk, we're kind of doing the contrast thing, competition and hunting. Someone melded the two. Did you know that?
Yeah.
It's called the NRL Hunter Series. Scott Satterley, Travis Ishida, and the guys at NRL came up with the series. They're like, hunters come in and use their gear. They have these long-range setups, and they never really use it. So what they did is they made a competition, and what it is you roll up to a stage, says, hey, you have 4 targets. They're going to be from one position. You say, cool, simple. You'll find your starting dot between your 2 markers. Easy, right? So you go around the corner, get on your starting block. You have to find your targets. By the first target, they'll have a placard that has your stage number. So say you're on stage 12. They're going to be big white placards that has a 12 on it. Your first target's within 15 or 25 yards of that placard. It's not even right next to it. It's within 15 yards of that. So you find your first target. Cool. And they'll tell you left to right or near to far. Near to far, obviously, you're going to be in the line. Kind of left to right, they're going to be left to right. You have to find all 4 of them, range them. I mean, some of them you only have 2 targets. You'll have 2 different positions, though.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's 1 target and you'll do 4 different positions. But still, you got to find them, range them, calculate your dope, dial it, and fire. You have 4 minutes to do this also. There's a time limit.
It's crazy.
You got to be very, very efficient. It teaches you guys exactly what to do with your gear, exactly how to train with it, exactly how to be efficient with it. So, you can be, in the hunting world, you probably aren't going to have that much of a time constraint when you think about it. You're going to be sitting there somewhat ready, have your gear out a little bit, potentially. You might not. But it's just a really awesome training scenario to show guys where their shortcomings are. Don't go in there expecting to be like, oh, I'm awesome, I'm going to tear this course up. There's stages where people don't even fire a shot because the steel targets blend in so well.
I was going to say, I'd probably struggle a little bit, and I'm probably like a ton of guys. I go out to the field, and it's a controlled environment that I'm controlling.
Yep.
I set up how I want to shoot, and I try to mimic what I'm going to do in a hunting scenario. So I will lay down in the dirt, very similar, but it's controlled, right? I can take the amount of time I want. I get my breathing right. Sometimes in a hunting scenario, you don't have that luxury.
Nope.
So when you come around in a stage like that, I could see where it'll let you know kind of where you're at.
Yep.
If you can do that and you just fly through it, you're probably good. If you really, really struggle, that gives you at least a gauge of where you need to practice. I like that. That's
it. Also emphasizes your first round hits.
Yeah.
First round hit gets 2 points. If you have to re-engage, it's only with 1 point. If you miss again, it's no points.
Yeah.
You don't get your points. So it really, really incentivizes those first round hits. But it shows you, obviously, it's a competition still. There's going to be places where you're like, oh, I wish I had this, but obviously it's not practical kind of for hunting.
Yeah.
But it'd be really great for these types of competitions. But it's still going to show you your gear because, you have to carry 100% of your gear on your back like you would hunting. Your rifle's got to be in hand. Your tripod, if you want to have a tripod with you, it's got to be in your backpack. If you want bags, they got to be in your backpack. You can just hand carry everything.
Yeah.
It's got to be attached to your rifle or in your bag.
Yeah.
That's it. It's truly how you'd be walking around hunting. And so it gives you, shows you your shortcomings in there and your processes and how you want to get stuff together. And obviously, your setup, your rifle, your ammo, and all that kind of stuff, and your ability to get windage calls and all that kind of stuff. So, super awesome competition. And I have been running the Vortex Razor AMG for those competitions.
Yeah.
I shot the one down in Hammett, Idaho, the Snake River Sportsman's one. It was the first one I ever did. I did other PRS style competitions, but I came in, got 11th overall. I was super happy.
Yeah.
I actually crushed it. If I would have found 2 of the targets, I hit every target I shot at. Hit every single target I shot at.
You came in 11th, and you're a guy that shoots competitions all the time.
Yeah.
Imagine a guy like me that just grabs his rifle and goes to it, you know what I mean?
So and that's what I said. Don't expect to just come in and tear it up. You're going to get educated by some guys who shoot PRS. There's some amazing shooters out there in the world, and they found a new way to just come compete and lay it down on fools. But they're a wealth of knowledge and use these matches to learn from them. And if you get a chance to talk to them, go talk to them.
Yeah.
But show up and go there willing to learn, ready to learn. You're not the biggest baddest dog in the world.
Yeah.
And even if you are, someone else is bigger and better.
Yeah.
So go in there with a learning mindset and be ready to go. Like I said, as I was saying though, I use the AMG, the Vortex Razor AMG, to make weight because there's weight classes you have to be under 12 pounds, and it's like 15 pounds max. Under 12 pounds for Hunter Light. I shot Hunter Light, so I was under 12 pounds. I weighed in at 10.6 with the AMG. With that, I'm under 10 pounds with my rifle setup, and from here on out, I'm going to take that AMG off, and this 4.5 to 22 is going to be my go-to optic.
Yeah.
And that's technically a competition environment. So that's the way we're going to run it.
Huh.
So now for you.
Yeah.
Top 3 things as a hunter.
You know, if I was going to pick top 3, there's an entire set of things that I'm looking for, and this is gathered from years of shooting and hunting and refining what I think is important. But if I was going to pick 3, I would have to say that you have to have a good, and this is kind of grouping a couple of them together. I'll cheat just a little. But you have to have a good turret system that is easy to function and is repeatable, has a 0 stop. It doesn't have to lock, but I really like the fact that it does lock so it doesn't move around. And I really like the fact that it is a capped windage turret. You have a side parallax. That piece of adjustability and whatever is really important. The next thing is probably glass quality. I'm going to make this thing work and stress it, so I need it to perform in low light conditions with or even sunlight when it's really demanding. So you have to have a good set of glass, and you're going to be looking at animals that kind of blend into the environment. So glass quality is the next one. You could kind of say price and glass quality go hand in hand, and I think that Vortex, with the warranty that you get and the price per quality or feature set you get is really hard to match. The next thing, so I'll say the turret system, we'll say is one feature, and this nails everything I'm looking for in a turret system. The glass quality, where the Razor glass quality, it's got the good lens coatings. So I would say that's probably the next one. Me being a guy that hunts a lot with everything on my back, weight's a big one, but I can't say that's top 3. I would have to probably say simplicity. That's a good way of putting it, because it's easy to use. You've got a turret system that's easy to use. You've got, you know what? Actually, I'll say the zoom range. Hitting the exact zoom range is maybe number 3. Number 4 would be the simplicity piece. The zoom range was lacking for me because I'm a guy that likes to be able to hunt the entire West, where I'm going to hunt an antelope all the way out to 800 maybe, because they're out in the flats, and that would just be a fun way of doing it, all the way down into, you know, maybe an elk that I'm going to shoot in the timber and we're a couple hundred yards away. But the simplicity, I think, is overlooked sometimes. You get an optic that has all these crazy things and when
all the features.
Yeah, and sometimes maybe you just want it to have the right zoom range, the simple and easy to use, and the reticle that's easy to use, and that's what you need. And you want it to be the best of all those. It needs to be a very good turret system that's simple. And sometimes being simple is harder to make or harder to hit than it is to just feature pack it.
Yep. I think I'm going to honorary mention real quick, and we didn't go over this at all.
Yeah.
Most of the Vortex optics, they have a quick adjustable diopter. You know, you can adjust that diopter whenever you want. These have the traditional full locking diopter, so once you set it, it's set. You got to undo a locking ring and then spin the whole thing back and forth. I think that cut weight down a little bit, but also, like you said, hunting, you're going to carry it on your back, it's going to be around, you don't want that getting moved, and then you pull up to a blurry picture. So I think I'll give that an honorary mention real quick too.
Yeah.
Cool.
And you know, one of the things you think about when you're looking at an optic, I know I'm this way, is where is it made? What does it come with? And some guys really care that it is not made in China. They think that China automatically means quality. And then some people, if you're really into your optics, you know that some of the best glass either comes from Europe or it comes from Japan. So one thing I noticed when I was looking at this is it says Japan on there. And so you know you're getting that little bit of a better glass quality. Obviously assembled in the U.S. and whatever. I don't know, man. I'm super excited. I need to get one of these on my gun, swap some things out. The 3 to 15 I thought was brilliant in the fact that they set it up, you know, light hunter tactical. It's kind of set up for what you need. But now they've expanded on that, and I'm like we were talking. I think this will become a staple in their lineup, and they'll add to it. But this is the brand new one. I'm pretty excited about it.
You know, I have my own name for it. It's a light hybrid tube.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, the hybrid, man. That's they should just, that should be
it's a light hybrid tube. Razor light hybrid tube.
Trademark hybrid.
All right. Well, that's kind of all we got right now. If you have any questions or we're super vague on anything, or you want to discuss any of the points that we talked about, or have your opinions and maybe more information that we could learn from, go ahead, drop it in the comments below. And for me personally, you can find me on Alpha Pursuit Official on Instagram, Alpha Pursuit Official on Facebook, and then Alpha Pursuit on YouTube, as you can see here. And so, yeah, those are my means. I put out a lot of content, competition, hunting, shooting, you name it. If you guys have something you want to see, just let me know. I'll make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, me, Mystery Mountain Outdoors. I have Facebook page, Instagram page, YouTube. I don't typically post in YouTube all the time, but when I do, I like to try and cover things that I use a lot and have experience with. And that's something I'm passionate about. I don't necessarily like to just talk about random gear that I don't have any experience in. I think it's important that you have somebody that knows what they're talking about and has personal experience with it. Just so you know, I'm not paid by Vortex. I think that's an important note. I don't get any money for anything. So I think I can talk freely and give my personal opinion. And I think that says a lot to some of the viewers.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of neat. We'll probably post this. We kind of collaborated. We thought it would kind of be fun to do like the hunter versus the shooter. But yeah.
Yep.
Good stuff.
I think we have another bigger picture thing that we're going to do here soon that involves a lot more Vortex products. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Like I said, if you have any questions, comments, let us know. And then if you really liked how we did this 2 different kind of viewpoints thing, maybe we'll do more. Just give us more topics to talk about and we'll do it for you.
Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you soon.